my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, well, I don't wanna jinx it, baby, and twist myself at the spine. Don't wanna overthink it, baby. It's just twist your body and mine. Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're giving me wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, but I don't wanna jinx it, baby. Let's not get ahead of my time. Oh, but I don't wanna miss you, baby. So I stand up and speak just my mind. Oh. Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're channeling wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're channeling wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, 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 oh,
I apologize. My mic was muted. I apologize, everybody. Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Today, we are going to be talking about some matchups this week here in week 8 of your fantasy football season. Hopefully, you guys are ready, eager, prepared, ready to win some fantasy football matchups. And we'll go through each of these games, talk about some of the injuries that are going on, what are those game totals, and potentially who we are playing and who we are not playing in these matchups. So hopefully you guys are excited and ready for that. We usually keep this about 30 minutes or less. If you guys are tapping into the channel for the first time, go ahead and hit that like button for us, hit the subscribe button so you always see our content when it does come out. And more importantly, make sure you are putting those start sit questions in the chat. I will be answering all of those live for you guys tonight. So and I say tonight, this morning before these games this morning. So without wasting any more time, let's hop right into these matchups for the week. So the first matchup here that I have on my docket is going to be the Eagles at the Commanders. It is a 43-point game total, a 7-point spread here in this matchup. The Eagles are favored in this one. And there's really not any injuries that we need to be worried about in this matchup. I would say the first injury is going to be the Curtis Samuel. He is a game time decision here in this matchup. They are not very pessimistic about this injury. They think that it's going to be something that they're optimistic about. They think he's probably going to be able to play. And then Quez Watkins, we've been talking about him for weeks. He's on IR. That just means Julio Jones is going to be in the lineup. He's going to be playing. I don't think he's going to be fantasy relevant for you guys this week, but he's somebody that's going to be playing. So as far as this matchup goes, man, we're expecting a, pretty decent lead from the Eagles. This Commander secondary has been pretty bad against the wide receiver position. So you're going to play AJ Brown. You're going to play Devontae Smith. I know Devontae's been pretty disappointing, but you're going to play him anyways. And then we have Dallas Goedert. We're playing him. And then DeAndre Swift, we're going to play him as well. So we're playing all of those options for your Eagles as well as Jalen Hurts. For the Commanders, I think you can play Terry McLaurin. I think you can play Sam Howell. Outside of those guys, maybe Brian Robinson if you're in a pinch at the running back position, but the matchup doesn't fare to be very good for Brian Robinson in this matchup. And then I think you can play Logan Thomas. So those are the guys that I would be playing, probably steering away from Curtis Samuel and Jahan Dotson if I can in this matchup. So the next matchup that we have here on the docket is going to be the Patriots at the Dolphins, 46.5 points. It is a 8-point spread on this one. The Patriots are 8-point underdogs in here. The Patriots don't have any injuries that we're going to be worried about for fantasy football. The only injuries that we're looking at for the Dolphins is going to be Raheem Mostert, but he is expected to play. So we're not expecting Raheem Mostert to be out in this one, so you can fire him up. I see we got Brando in here. He says, yo, yo, yo. What up, man? Appreciate you being here this morning. I see Inflictive says Chris Olave. Not sure what the question is for Chris Olave, but I am playing Chris Olave this week. So, yes, you can play Chris Olave this week. Go ahead and drop your questions in the chat if you have them for us, Brando. And then we'll keep going through this matchup. But in this matchup, man, for the Patriots and the Dolphins, I think really we're playing everybody for the Dolphins for the most part. We can play Jalen Waddle. We can play Tyreek Hill. We'll play Raheem Mostert. We'll play Tua Tagovailoa. We can play all of those guys. I'm not worried about any of them in this matchup. There's a decent amount of points that's expected to be scored here in this one. And in fact, I think this is the highest scoring game total projection on the week. So we're expecting this to be the highest scoring game total. Majority of those points going to the Dolphins. So I think, definitely play those guys. Raheem Mostert, he's a top 10 play for me this week, even despite having that little bit of a questionable tag. And then for the Patriots, man, who are we playing? I think you can play Kendrick Bourne. And really, that might be it. I mean, you play Ramondre Stevenson, but outside of those two guys, that's probably who I am playing. And I see Brando. He says, I asked in the Discord, but what's your thoughts on my flex? I need two: Mixon, Stevenson, Higgins, and Pierce. And I appreciate you asking in the Discord. I either missed it or it was on right now, but glad that I can answer this for you right now. But I think for me this week, man, out of those four options, Mixon is the number one player that I would be playing out of those ones. So I'm going to play Mixon. And then I think I would be playing I think I'm going to go Stevenson over Higgins. So I'm going to go Mixon and Stevenson. And Brandon says it was now. So, okay, no worries. Usually, if it happens while I'm on the stream, it's hard for me to get to him in the Discord as well. But I'd be going with Mixon and Stevenson this week out of those options. Those would be the two that I'm playing. So glad you could ask that. Glad we could answer that. Let's keep it moving on to the next game on the schedule, and that's going to be the Jets at the Giants. This game is one of the lowest scoring projected game totals for the week. It's going to be a 35 game total, point game total in there, and then the Jets are 3-point favorites in this matchup. Randall Cobb is questionable. Daniel Jones is out, not going to be playing, and Darren Waller is questionable. I think Waller is probably going to play. Don't quote me on it. We're still waiting for some updates, but I think he's going to play. So we'll see what happens there. As far as everybody else, I think we're going to play Garrett Wilson. We can play Breece Hall. We can go over to the Giants and we can play Saquon Barkley. Outside of those three, it gets pretty risky. I mean, you can play Darren Waller too if he plays. If he plays, you'll play Darren Waller. And then Brando says, I need 2 PPR, Kamara, Eckler, Pollard. So for me, it's going to be Kamara and Eckler. So I'm going to play both of those guys in a PPR league this week. And then yeah, man. So outside of those 3 guys, I'm not really looking at anybody else in this matchup if I don't have to play them. You could maybe sneak in a Wan'Dale Robinson, but even then, I'm not really playing like those types of plays this week if I don't have to. So now we have the Rams and the Cowboys here. It's 45.5-point game total, 6.5-point spread in favor of the Dallas Cowboys in this one. No injuries for the Cowboys. Kyren Williams, obviously on IR for the Rams. Ronnie Rivers on IR for the Rams as well. So we are expecting Darrell Henderson again. And so we're expecting Darrell Henderson to take that on. He does have this matchup here against the Cowboys. It's a tough matchup. It's not great for running backs, but you hope that he can possibly fall into the end zone here in this matchup. But we are going to be playing Puka Nacua. We're going to be playing Cooper Kupp. Obviously, we can play Matthew Stafford. When it comes down to everybody else in that lineup, I don't think we're playing Tyler Higbee anymore. Like I don't know if that's a play that we can continue to play with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp in the lineups. For the Cowboys, we'll play CeeDee Lamb. I know a lot of people dislike the matchup for some reason. I have a feeling, and it's just a gut feeling, guys. So I just like Brandon Cooks a little bit as a play this week as a stream. I like Brandon Cooks. And then obviously we can keep playing Jake Ferguson. We can keep playing Tony Pollard in that matchup. And then you can play Dak Prescott as well. And Anthony's in here. He says Drake London or Devontae Smith. And neither have been great for you so far this year. Pretty up and down. Devontae's been really disappointing for you this year. But I think for me, I'm still going Devontae Smith in this situation. He's the guy that I'd be playing out of these 2. So our next game here on the schedule is going to be the Jags at the Steelers, 40.5-point game total, 2.5-point spread in favor of the Jaguars in this one. Trevor Lawrence has been questionable all week. He's expected to play. He's going to play with a brace on his knee. Zay Jones, he's out, and Pat Freiermuth's on IR. So those are your injuries in this matchup. So we're going to keep an eye out on those ones. With that being said, we are still, I know there's rain. It doesn't look like it's supposed to be like crazy rain. It's not enough that it's going to push me away from any of these options. You can play Trevor Lawrence. He hasn't been great this year either. We can temper some of those expectations for Trevor, I think, especially with the brace on the knee. It's going to limit the mobility just a tiny bit. But we can play him. We're going to play Evan Engram, Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Travis Etienne. We can play all of these guys. For the Steelers, Kenny Pickett, we're not playing him if we don't have to. He hasn't been good for fantasy football so far, so we're not playing Kenny Pickett. But if you're in a pinch, you can probably play Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris. And then you can definitely play Deontay Johnson, George Pickens in this matchup. So those are the guys that I would be looking at playing, the guys that I probably would be sitting in this matchup. So those are going to be our Jags and Steelers players for this week. So next point or the next game here is going to be the Texans and the Panthers. It's a 43-point game total, 3.5-point spread for the Texans here. And they are the ones favored in this matchup. So we do get CJ Stroud versus Bryce Young, number 1 versus number 2 in this week's matchup. Should be a fun game to watch. Robert Woods is out, so that should mean a slight bump for Nico Collins and Tank Dell in this receiving room. Brevin Jordan's out. Doesn't really matter too much. And then the Panthers, they don't have any injuries that we should really be worried about. Laviska Shenault, he's going to be out in this one, but, he wasn't a big beneficiary in this offense anyways. So we are going to be playing, like I said, CJ Stroud, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell. Dameon Pierce, and I see we have Brando in here. He says, I want to start Pierce, but I still don't trust him. And I really don't trust Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce, he's been losing snaps to Devin Singletary. Like, I think Dameon Pierce, it's getting scary hours with Dameon Pierce right now. If Dameon Pierce gets out-snapped by Devin Singletary this week again, he might be on drop watch. Like it might be time that we could drop him from our fantasy football teams and not care about it. So he's starting to turn into what it looks like is the 1B in this backfield so far. I don't know what's going to happen this week. It's something to watch, but I'm definitely not starting Dameon Pierce We're watching Devin Singletary and seeing what he does this week in that backfield, but it's getting messy in that backfield, and I don't like it for Dameon Pierce. He's definitely somebody that I'm not playing. With that being said, I'm not starting Devin Singletary this week either. You could pick him up off of waiver wires. I picked him up off of waiver wires last week. And let's hold him. Let's see what happens. But yeah, I definitely am not trusting Dameon Pierce by any means so far this year. And then Dalton Schultz, I guess you can stream him if you need to, but he's not like a top play for me this week. For the Panthers, you're obviously going to play Adam Thielen. And then we have that same kind of the Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary, battle that we're having over there. We're kind of having a similar one right now. It's Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard. These guys have kind of been splitting reps. It's kind of not looking good for Miles Sanders. I know they're the ones who paid him the money. He's kind of been getting the reps, but I know he's been banged up too. We'll see what happens with Miles Sanders this week. Chuba Hubbard's looked better so far this year. So watch that one as well. I think I feel more confident in starting Miles Sanders than I do Dameon Pierce. So, but still, neither of those guys I'm really looking to play. And then outside of, in the receiving room, outside of Adam Thielen, I'm not really looking to play any of these other wide receivers for the Panthers. And so we do have a couple in here, Browns or Falcons D. In this one, I would probably be going with I'd probably be going with the Falcons defense. They played that rookie quarterback. Will Levis is going to get some snaps. There's a chance for a lot of turnovers in this one. So I like the Falcons D over the Browns. And then Love or Trevor Lawrence 4-point touchdown format. That's a good one. I probably have these guys really close in my rankings. Let's see where I have them at right now. Let's see. Jordan Love right now is sitting as my where is he? I have Jordan Love as QB 14. Trevor Lawrence with the injury, I have him as QB 11. So I would still lean Trevor Lawrence just a little bit in this 4-point passing format, but it's close. It's close enough, but I'd go Trevor Lawrence in this one. Jordan Addison or Zay Flowers in PPR. I'm going Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is a top 10 play for me this week at the wide receiver position. Steven says full PPR. Start one. Madison, Pierce, Stevenson, and Watson. Watson, is that Christian Watson? I'm assuming it is. And so with this being said, it's not going to be Pierce for me this week. It's probably going to be between Madison and Stevenson. And in my rankings right now, full PPR, I do have Stevenson as my running back 22. Madison is my running back 24. So I would lean Stevenson in this matchup. We have pick 2 wide receivers. PPR, Ridley, Zay Flowers, Palmer. I'm going to go Ridley and Zay. Zay, like I said, top 10 play this week for me. And then Ridley, I just like him more than Palmer, especially because Palmer is still questionable and likely going to be a game time decision. All right, guys. So let's continue going down this. Our next game on the schedule is the Vikings at the Packers, 41.5-point game total in this one. 1-point favorites for the Vikings in this one. Justin Jefferson still on IR. Luke Musgrave, he's questionable in this matchup. But outside of that, we're playing pretty much everybody. Aaron Jones, you can play him. Christian Watson, play him. Romeo Doubs, play him. I do think we are going to be playing Jordan Love. We're going to be playing Kirk Cousins, Jordan Addison. You can flex KJ Osborne if you need him. Alexander Madison, we can play him. And then obviously TJ Hawkinson, for sure you're playing him. So these are all guys that we're playing this week. There's not really a lot of guys that I'm not playing. Yeah, I would say AJ Dillon, he's somebody that I'd lean not playing. And then, yeah, that's really it. I mean, Musgrave, we'll see what happens with that game time decision for him. But outside of that, let's see. And Brando says, if Palmer wasn't injured, I'd be starting him in one of my flexes. And yeah, that's the tough part, man, especially because they play Sunday night football. So like all of these games are going to be pretty much done by the time we know if Palmer is actually in. The last update that I got for Palmer was that he was going to test it out. They were optimistic about him is what I heard. But yeah, he's still questionable. And it's kind of a risk to wait on Palmer, especially if you have other options that are, just as good or feasible when Palmer's playing so late in the day and he's still questionable. Anthony says, Jeff Wilson or Miles Sanders. It's tough, man. That's a tough question. I think for me, I would lean Miles Sanders still. I do expect him to get at least 50% of the work. I don't know if I can expect Jeff Wilson to get that. I know they're a better offense. There's more points to go around, but that New England defense is a little bit tougher than that Texans defense. So I am going to lean Miles Sanders just slightly. It's not by a lot, though. I'll tell you that. Miles Sanders right now, he's sitting in my rankings as running back 34 this week. So it's not great. And Jeff Wilson, I'm not very high on Jeff Wilson this week. I have him in the 40s. So we'll see. Brando says, I do have Johnston, but don't think he's viable to start. It'll be interesting, man. If Palmer's out, I've heard rumblings of Guyton, Jalen Guyton being the one that maybe gets the next play. It's going to be tough. I think if you do have Johnston, you can probably wait on Palmer and then just play one of the other. But you're right. Like, Johnston has not been good by any means. But I think if you have somebody else, like, I'll read you some of the guys that I have in the same tier as Palmer this week. And if you have any of these guys, I'd probably just play them over Josh Palmer. If you have Downs, Tank Dell, Amari Cooper, Cortland Sutton, T. Higgins, Deontay Johnson, Rashee Rice, Tyler Lockett, Christian Watson, Kendrick Bourne, like, if you have any of those guys, I'm probably just playing them over Palmer this week, just because I don't want to risk it and wait on Sunday night. Jackson says, yo, bro, PPR start 2, Swift, Pacheco, Barkley. For me, I would be playing this week just in my rankings. I know I have a lot of these guys very high. I'll tell you, Pacheco, he's my running back 8 on the week. Swift is my running back 10, and Saquon is my running back 11. So I am going to be going with Pacheco and Swift in this matchup for you, Jackson. Anthony says, I'm rolling the dice and playing Lamar Jackson over Mahomes because of weather. Look, actually, I'll tell you what. I don't mind it for you, Anthony, and for the fact that you have both of those guys is crazy. But I don't mind it for you. But I've actually heard a lot of good news regarding the weather in Denver right now. Apparently, a lot of the snowfall happened last night. They're going to have enough time to clear all of the snow off of the field before game time. That's what I've been hearing. It's supposedly not going to be a continuous snow during the game. So we are expecting that to be a little bit better of a weathered game than we were expecting in the first part. And I think really the reality is, like, Patrick Mahomes he's just one of them dudes. I don't mind you because you have such an elite option in Lamar Jackson, going for a different option. But I think if you have Mahomes or you have those Kansas City options, I'm not really worried about the weather at this point, just because I've heard that they're going to be able to clear that snow before game time off of the field. So Brando says, yeah, I have Higgins, but also Stevenson and Mixon. Yeah, I think I think I like Stevenson and Mixon, out of those ones. I know Higgins, there's a chance he's going to have that breakout. He always has the opportunity to do that, but we'll see. And then should I trade Palmer for Zach Moss PPR? I wouldn't. I think Zach Moss's days are slowly getting worse and worse and worse. And I think it's starting to shift more to that JT backfield. I have Zach Moss in some of my leagues, and it's getting to a point where, like, a week or two from now, if we get a couple low end performances, I might end up, dropping him to the waiver wire, because I don't value Zach Moss that highly anymore. Bryce says, pick 3, Adams, Ayuk, Kirk, or Thielen, all wide receivers. In this matchup, Ayuk and Thielen for sure. Those are the 2 that I'm going to be playing. And then I can't imagine that I have Christian Kirk higher than Devontae Adams in my rankings this week. Ayuk I have as wide receiver 11. Adams is 12. Thielen is 13. Christian Kirk 16. So I would be going with Adams, Ayuk, Kirk, or I would be going with Adams, Ayuk, Thielen, benching Kirk. Anthony says it was a dynasty draft. Yeah, that makes sense. I have in one of my dynasty leagues, I have Josh Allen and Justin Herbert as my 2 quarterbacks in a super flex. And oh my gosh, man, it is so easy to just throw those 2 out there every week and get that. I'm getting like 50 points out of those guys every single week. But yeah, it's fun when you can play dynasty and you can get a couple guys like that. But let's keep this rolling, guys. I want to talk about our next matchup, Saints and Colts, 43.5 points game total, 2-point spread in this one. The Saints are favored by those 2 points. Michael Thomas, he's questionable with a illness actually in this matchup. They do seem like he's going to play, but keep in mind he's sick. So if you have PTSD from the Bijan Robinson illness injury of last week, maybe be cautious about Michael Thomas. Taysom Hill, he's injured, but he's expected to play. And then Zach Moss, he's going to be a game-time decision. So we are expecting all of that here in this matchup. Now, I think for everybody else in this matchup, Chris Olave, we're playing him. Derek Carr, actually, I do like this as a stream option. If you need a quarterback this week, you can potentially play Derek Carr. I'm streaming him this week over Geno Smith in a super flex. So I do like the matchup enough. I do also like Juwan Johnson in this one. He can be a decent play. And then also when we look at the Colts, I think we're playing Jonathan Taylor. We're going to play Michael Pittman Jr., and then we can play Josh Downs. I'm shying away from Gardner Minshew if I don't have to play him. And then everybody else, the Alec Pierces, the Zach Mosses, I'm probably shying away from as well. Let's see. Next matchup on the docket is going to be Falcons and Titans. And we do have a 35-point game total. It is a 2.5-point spread there for the Falcons as favorites in this one. No Ryan Tannehill, so we are getting Will Levis. That's scary. It's scary. I hope Will Levis does well. We don't know what that's going to look like. All reports about Will Levis in the preseason were that he didn't look very good, was potentially being outplayed by Malik Willis. And we know what Malik Willis has done for his fantasy football wide receivers last year was atrocious. So it's tough for me to have any confidence playing any of these wide receiver options for the Titans this week. I want to say I'm shying away from DeAndre Hopkins. We're definitely not playing Treylon Burks. It's tough to trust anybody out there. I think the only one that I would play, and it's a bad matchup, but the only one that I would play on the Titans this week is going to be Derrick Henry. And it's a bad matchup. Like I said, he's the only one that I would be playing. For the Falcons in this matchup, we're going to play Bijan. You can play Drake London. You can play Kyle Pitts. Those are the guys that we're playing. I think we're just tempering expectations like we have been with these guys every week. And Anthony's in here. He says, you trust in Darrell Henderson versus Dallas this week? It's tough for me to do it. I think he's going to get the volume. That's the play that you'll be using on Darrell Henderson this week is, hey, he's going to get a lot of volume. It's a tough defensive front. They've been very good against the running back position. I think with Darrell Henderson being plugged into a lineup this week, you're probably hoping that he just falls into the end zone. And to give you an idea of where I have him, and keep in mind, these are PPR rankings. But where I have Darrell Henderson this week is where do I have him? I have him as a high-end flex option for your running backs. He's running back 29 for me. I have him in the same tier as the Damian Pierce, the Chuba Hubbard, the Jalen Warrens of the world. That's kind of where I have Darrell Henderson this week. So you're looking at volume, hoping that he falls into the end zone, but I don't think he has a ton of upside in this matchup here against the Dallas Cowboys. So we'll keep it rolling. We have a couple more games, probably like 6 more games to get through before we get to these games. And we got about 15 more minutes left in the stream. So if you guys continue to have questions, please throw them in the chat. We have 15 minutes to continue answering all of your questions for you today. So the next game on our docket is going to be Browns and Seahawks. It is a 37.5-point game total in this one with a 4-point favorite for the Seahawks in this matchup. No Deshaun Watson in the matchup. Jerome Ford is going to be a game-time decision, so we're keeping an eye out for him. If he plays, I don't know what he's going to do. It's going to be tough to see, but if he doesn't play, Kareem Hunt gets a pretty decent bump in that running game with Jerome Ford out. Tyler Lockett, he's questionable, but it sounds like he's expected to play. So with that being said, I think the Browns have had a very good year against fantasy football wide receivers. So I think we're going to temper the expectations a little bit on DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. If Metcalf and Lockett are both playing, I think we're really going to temper those expectations on Njigba just because he's not getting put out in 2 wide receiver sets with those 2 guys on the field. You are going to play Kenneth Walker despite this being a bad matchup. And then for the Browns, it's going to be tough for me to trust any of these guys really outside of Kareem Hunt with PJ Walker at the quarterback position. Maybe you can play Cooper if you need him in a pinch. I think right now I have Amari Cooper as my, let's see where I have him. I have him as wide receiver. I have him as wide receiver 35 this week. Same tier as Tank Dell, Josh Downs, Josh Palmer, Rashee Rice. That's kind of where I have him. So we'll see what that looks like. But even outside of him, we're not playing Elijah Moore or any of those other guys. And Anthony says, honest opinion, you think Akers taking over Madison in Minnesota's backfield? If we're being completely honest, I think he looks better than Madison. At least last week, like there's a couple plays where Akers got the ball and there was a big run, a couple big runs, and I don't know if he's going to take over Madison in the Minnesota backfield, but I do think that the team plays better, and I do think that the offense moves better when these guys are splitting touches. I think they kind of need to go full RBBC here with Akers and Madison. I'd like to see almost a 50-50 split, to be honest, because I think both of these guys make the team better because they both run a little bit differently. Anthony says Najee or Javonte starting flex running back. For me, I'm probably going to go with Javonte. I do have Javonte right now as my running back 21, and I do have Najee as my running back 32. So I am going with Javonte over Najee in this matchup. Now let's keep it moving. We do have the Chiefs at the Broncos. Like we said, there's snow on the ground there right now. Apparently, it's getting cleared off before game time, but apparently they got a lot of snow last night. If you look at Adam Schefter's Twitter and all these other guys, they have the video of all the snow on the field. It looks like a lot. It sounds like it's getting cleared off. Even in the video, you can see they have like a tractor that's starting to push some of that snow off of the field. So I wouldn't be too worried about the snow, but it is going to play a factor just a little bit. So it's a 46-point game total in this one, a 7-point favorite for the Chiefs in this matchup. No injuries for the Chiefs, but Brandon Johnson, he was put on IR for the Denver Broncos. No Greg Dulcich as well. But the Brandon Johnson, I think it is something that we're noting at least a little bit because Brandon Johnson was playing and getting more snaps than Marvin Mims. So with Brandon Johnson out, Marvin Mims, maybe a little bit of a deep sleeper that you can throw in there, especially in a matchup where you think they're going to be playing from behind. There's a 46-point game total projected to be a lot of points. Marvin Mims, he's a deep threat. There's a chance that he's a sneaky play here in this matchup. But I'm not suggesting that you play him, but he's somebody that's kind of a sleeper, I think, for the week. Again, we're going to play Javonte. We can play Russell Wilson. You probably can play Cortland Sutton, and I don't know if we're playing Jerry Jeudy, man. Right now, I have Jerry Jeudy in my rankings as wide receiver. Where do I have him? Wide receiver 49. Similar to KJ Osborne, DeAndre Hopkins, Curtis Samuel this week. So I'm really not looking at Jerry Jeudy. For the other side of the football, hey, this should be a really, really good game for Isaiah Pacheco. I like Isaiah Pacheco. He's a top 8 play for me at the running back position this week. So we're playing Isaiah Pacheco. You obviously play Travis Kelce. And then I think you can flex Rashee Rice. So those are the guys that I'm looking at. And then obviously it goes without saying, we're playing Patty Mahomes. Unless you're, is it Brando or is it Anthony? Unless you're, who is it? Who's the guy? It's Anthony. Unless you're Anthony, you just have Lamar Jackson sitting on the bench that you can just throw him in. Then maybe you can bench Mahomes, but I'm not benching Mahomes. Anthony says Tank Dell or Drake London. For me, I'm going to be going with Tank Dell in this matchup over Drake London. Now, the next game on the docket is the Bengals-Niners, 44-point game total, 4-point favorites for the Niners in this matchup. Brock Purdy did clear concussion protocol. And so with that being said, he is going to be playing. Deebo Samuel is out, but we are playing Christian McCaffrey. We're going to play Brandon Ayuk. We're going to play George Kittle. All those guys, you play them. No questions asked. Let's throw them in the lineup. You can play Brock Purdy as well. I'm worried. I'm slightly worried. I don't like that. I don't, after Tua's thing last year, I don't like he might not play because of the concussion. And he just finished to clear protocol right before the game day. And now we're going to throw him out here. I just have the Tua flashbacks. I hope they're not going to do something stupid to Brock Purdy. But it's not anything that you're going to have to sit Brock Purdy off of. It's just something that I'm thinking about. I'm like, dude, we kind of saw them do this last year with the Miami Dolphins. It sounds weird. And Anthony's saying, Bengals Niners has a trap game of the week vibes to me. Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, I think, they have that 44-point game total. It seems like it could be a low scoring game. So we'll see what happens there for the Bengals. These are the guys you can play, or actually let's start off with the guys that I am playing no matter what. Burrow, Chase, and Mixon. We are playing them no matter what. And then you can play T Higgins. I wouldn't suggest benching T Higgins unless you have some really good options. Like I saw Brando had. He said he had Mixon, Higgins, Stevenson. I think that's kind of the tier that I'm looking at. And to give you guys an idea, like I have T. Higgins currently sitting right now as my wide receiver 33 on the week. I have him in a similar tier to DK Metcalf, Hollywood Brown, Deontay Johnson. That's kind of where I have him at. So we'll see how that goes. But that's the guys that we're playing in that matchup. When we get to the next one, it's Ravens Cardinals. I do have a 45-point game total for this one. 9.5-point favorites for the Ravens in this matchup. Should be a blowout. No injuries. Kyler Murray is out in this matchup. Zach Ertz, he's on IR. James Conner on IR. So really missing a lot of people. And we see Shane in the chat. He says, "What's up, Andrew? Give a shout out to my Uncle Bob. Headed to the Seahawks game right now." Well, what's up, Uncle Bob? Welcome over to the League FFB. Thank you for checking out the content and have fun at that Seahawks game, man. Hopefully you guys get a dub against those Cleveland Browns. Now, Brando, he says my other wide receivers are AJ Brown and Diggs, so I'm pretty set rest of the season. Yeah, that seems pretty set to me, man. That's a good wide receiver room. Anthony says, yeah, I picked Lamar in 4th round in a single QB dynasty. Highest ADP at the time. Mahomes' ankle issues concern me. Lamar's too talented to leave on the draft board. Absolutely. And so in this matchup, guys, we're talking about guys that we want to play, right? For the Ravens, you can play Gus Edwards, I think, in this matchup. You can play Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is a start of the week for me. He's going to be fantastic, I think, this week. Top 10 wide receiver play for me this week, Zay Flowers. Mark Andrews, we're playing him. Lamar Jackson, we're playing him. For the other side of the football, for the Cardinals, I think Amari DiMercado can be a flex play. I think you can plug him in if you need him. But I would say there's 2 guys that I'm considering playing. There's one that is a for sure set it and forget it start for me, and that's Hollywood Brown. Then the other one is Trey McBride. I think we can play Trey McBride. He's going to be a decent play at that tight end position so far, as long as Zach Ertz is going to be out, which we know is going to be a few weeks. So I think Trey McBride can be played as well. Now, 2 games left here on the docket, guys. We have the Bears and Chargers. This is Sunday Night Football, 46-point games total, 9.5-point spread in favor of the Los Angeles Chargers. We've talked about it already, but Justin Fields is out. Tyson Bagent is going to be in playing quarterback. Khalil Herbert, he is on IR, but Roschon Johnson is finally healthy. He's supposed to play. Dante Foreman's going to be playing. I can't tell you that I have confidence in either of those guys if they're going to be split in the backfield. And then Cole Kmet, I like the matchup for Cole Kmet, but it's hard for me to trust Tyson Bagent at quarterback. So I think it's tough for me to play any of these options. Kmet and DJ Moore, those are the 2 that you could play, I think, if you need them. But again, like I said, it's tough for me to play those options, especially in a game like this one. And then for the Chargers, Gerald Everett, he's a game time decision. Josh Palmer, game time decision. We've talked about those 2. If Palmer doesn't play, I don't mind you having to plug in QJ, but it's tough for me to trust him right now. But Austin Eckler, we're playing him no matter what. Keenan Allen's going to go off in this matchup. Keenan Allen might finish as the wide receiver 1 on the week in this matchup, especially if Palmer's out and Gerald Everett is out. And then Austin Eckler is going to have himself a day. Also, Justin Herbert, one of my dudes, one of my guys coming into the season. Love Justin Herbert's matchup this week. So we got a couple more questions, and we'll answer the questions that are here. We'll talk about the last game. And as I'm talking about the last game, get those final questions in the chat because we have about 5 more minutes that we'll be here live on stream. So this is last call for any fantasy football, NFL, or we did it last night. If you guys have just any other random questions, life questions, whatever, go ahead and throw them in the chat too. I'm happy to answer whatever you got. But this is the last call. Start throwing them in the chat and we'll answer them. Let's see. Manuel says, hi, bro. Start 1 flex PPR. Amari Cooper, Michael Thomas, Rashee Rice. I think in this one, I'm going to be leaning on Michael Thomas despite the illness. I'm going to be leaning Michael Thomas at the wide receiver position and then start 1 tight end, Schultz or Waller. That's a tougher one. Let me check my rankings, refer to my rankings right now. I think it is going to be I have Waller a little bit higher, so I'm going to be going Waller and Michael Thomas. Anthony says, love some secret agent Bagent shares. It's tough, man. I know you like diving deep in those dynasty waivers, so you probably have some secret agent Bagent. Brando says, yeah, I got Herbert too. Yeah, dude, hopefully it was because everybody liked Herbert, but I was definitely pumping up Herbert a lot this offseason. So hopefully I helped you pick him because he's been pretty good. Shane says, can Geno get any worse in your opinion? He's on my bench this week. I'm bringing in the car over Geno Smith this week. So we'll see what happens, man. But I'd love for you, Shane. I know you have been holding tight on those Russell Wilson shares. I'd like to see you come get some Geno Smith and give me a little Russ. I'm not gonna lie, but you gotta bring your price down, man. You gotta let go of all those years that Russ has given you some championships and some winning teams. You gotta let go, man, and just let me have them. Brando says, other than last week, yeah, he's been solid. Yep, exactly. Canales moving to Tampa Bay hurt Geno. Absolutely, it hurt Geno a lot. So anyways, we have the last game here on the docket. Get those final questions in as I'm talking about it. But that is going to be Monday Night Football, Raiders at Lions. And we do have a 46-point game total in this one as well. The Lions are 8-point favorites, and David Montgomery is going to be out in this matchup. So I do love this matchup for Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs. Both Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs are top 3 options at the position for me this week. Love what Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta are gearing up to do this week. I also obviously like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Outside of those guys, I don't know if we can trust JMO yet. And so we're probably staying away. Josh Reynolds, I don't know what we can, count him to do. And then we play Jared Goff. For the Raiders, it is tough to trust anybody, I think, right now, but you play Devontae Adams. You can play Jacoby Myers. You play Jimmy Garoppolo if you need to. But my guess is that you don't need to play Jimmy Garoppolo. And then Josh Jacobs. We're playing Josh Jacobs. And I think if you need to flex Michael Mayer, you can. But I'm not suggesting you do that right now. There's probably other options that you can play. So those are going to be the guys that we are playing in this matchup. And that is all I have for you guys for the games this week. I see we don't have any other questions in the chat. So unless they come in as I'm wrapping up right now, we are going to end the stream. But I want to thank each and every one of you guys for hopping in here today. If you were in the stream last night and in the stream today, I thank you guys tremendously. Thank you so much for being here. You guys are awesome. You're what makes this whole thing tick. So love doing this for you guys. Love hopping on stream. Love talking. And really just, playing this game of fantasy football that we all love. So thank you guys for being here. Before you head out, if you could do me a favor and hit that like button down below, it's the best free way to show our channel some support. It helps us out, helps us grow, and helps us reach more people. So go ahead and do that. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button so you're always seeing our content that's coming out all the time. And last but not least, good luck in your matchups this week here in week 8. Hopefully we gave you some information here this week between the couple streams that we did where you guys can pull out a win. We want you guys to win. We want you to win some dynasty, some redraft, some keeper, some whatever you have. We want you to win those championships. So hopefully we're helping you do that here at the League FFB. And with all of that being said, let's go watch some football. Need some Vikings win today. Let's get some Vikings wins today. So I'll see you guys on the next one. Anyways, peace out, guys.